For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliott Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Due Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Due Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Due Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
All right, and good morning, and welcome into another edition of Due's Hockey Hotline. I am one of your hosts, Matt Diegert, and as always, with me, Beyond716. Still in the beautiful weather of Florida.
Yes.
How are we doing this morning?
Doing good. Hot and humid down here. So, so it's funny you mentioned this. Steve mentioned this. I'm going to see the Star Wars exhibit down here in Disney World, and then Steve right away, the Star Wars theme song of hockey. Perfect time. Steve, it's like Steve is channeling my thoughts like somehow. That was brilliant. So,
absolutely.
That was great stuff. So, yeah. So here we are, Matt. We're knee deep into the off season, which always seems a little bit longer as each year passes on our drought. But needless to say, there's still plenty to discuss around the NHL. What we'll do today is we'll go around the playoffs. We'll give our little thoughts. I mean, truthfully, been traveling a lot, doing stuff for business. Haven't really been tuned in to the playoffs like we usually would be, right? And there's other things going on. But we'll give our thoughts on each series, on what's coming up, and then we'll go into some things about the Sabres, about Terry and Kevin, maybe what's going on after that meeting. We'll speculate, and then we'll get into the NHL lottery, which is now Monday. They moved it up, it feels like, this year a little bit, which I think is a good change. So, and we'll talk about the changes that are going into the lottery. So, and away we go, man.
Yeah, so, I mean, the playoffs have been awesome this year. As expected with the game, the first round that they've had. Tampa, Florida was a good series. Even though Florida basically won it in 5 games. Toronto, Ottawa was not that great, but Ottawa did end up putting up a fight after everything. Montreal, Washington was a close series minus the first game. Carolina, New Jersey, that was your upset alert, but New Jersey didn't.
Well, you know what happened there is, Matt, the Devils, there was a game they played without 5 of their defensemen. I mean, you name me one team that could withstand that kind of loss. And by the way, they're still without Jack Hughes. So when you factor all that in, it was just too much for New Jersey. So,
I mean, we can't sit here and say the Sabres might have won the Stanley Cup in 05-06. Had they not lost just 5 defensemen, and then sit here and say that New Jersey was gonna, so.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Devil fan. I said, all I can tell you is it makes me think of Jeff Gilson, right? Every time I hear that story, it goes back to the staph infection of Jay McKee, and I think about Jeff Gilson and all the AHL defensemen the Sabres had in a Game 7.
It's crazy that the Sabres still almost won the game. They were up 2-1 until
that pains me still.
Who was it?
Cam Ward.
Well, Brindamore was it? Or was it Brindamore who scored that goal?
Brindamore, yeah,
goal?
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. So it's funny irony. It's Carolina in both scenarios, but Jacob Markstrom was amazing in that Game 5 overtime. Yeah. He was making saves, like he was doing everything he could. I felt bad for him actually because he just had no support. But anyway, needless to say. So, I mean, it was kind of expected Carolina was going to win. I just took a flyer in the Devils. And truthfully, beyond Game 1, they actually played pretty well. The games were very close, considering all that. So it kind of frustrates me is that if the Devils would have had their full ensemble, I think they could have pulled it off. Toronto, Ottawa, I think it's about what I expected personally. And, we talked about it at the beginning of the playoffs, Matt. Nylander had 9 points. Mitch Marner had 8. Matthews had 7. Tavares has 5. If the big guys are Toronto producing, they're going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs, right? That's always been their Achilles heel. They started, Ottawa started coming back. You're like, oh man, is Toronto going to blow another big series here? I mean, are they going to really do this? But credit to them. I really don't like either team. It's like a root canal or a tooth extraction for me, Matt. I can't stand either team. So, but
yeah,
you know what? I do want to take a victory lap on something. Dylan Cousins, right? I've seen some Ottawa fans. I saw one person tweet, I see what Sabre fans were talking about Dylan Cousins, Matt. We haven't had many wins lately. Let's savor that a little bit, right? We've seen a lot of these players move on, right? Have these huge playoffs, and we're sitting here frustrated. And the media's taking shots at the. My condolences to the media out there. I know they were hoping for it, but you didn't get it. So there you go. So we move on from there.
Yeah, no, and I, it's basically what you and I expected. I said that had he gotten into a new situation, he could possibly flourish and everything like that. But it ends up not being, a huge factor. I mean, it's still wait and see, getting him into Ottawa and everything like that next year and moving forward there. But I mean, mostly, it looks like a failure on the Ottawa Senators side of things.
Yes.
From a trade standpoint, specifically, because he just after that first week and a half of games, he fell off. Like there was nothing that he was really doing. Game 3 or game 4, he up and doesn't play defense very well. Gives up that goal to Domi, the game winner to I almost said Ty Domi, Max Domi. Yeah. But yeah, you were the one that was on that, basically saying that Dylan Cousins wasn't gonna the change of scenery wasn't gonna help him nothing. Like he is what he is at this point. So
Matt, I'm not rooting against them. I wish him the best. I want this trade to work for both teams. I think it could. I still think Cousins has a shot. I'm not saying that he doesn't. You got to give it at least a year and a half. It was just how, after his first game, the media's like, oh, the Sabres once again. And you got to let things play out. We learned that in the Tage Thompson deal, right? Now, it really did help St. Louis, we know, right? It did. But it also helped the Sabres. Eventually, Tage Thompson surprised us all, which is still one of the more stunning ascensions I've ever seen into becoming a legit superstar in the NHL. I wouldn't call him, elite, but he's a definite all-star. He's an absolute top scorer. He's becoming – really one of the faces of the franchise. So, from that point of view. But, you mentioned Florida, Tampa Bay. I'm disappointed in Tampa Bay. I really am. And I wonder if, certain teams get to a point, Matt, as you know, where they have long runs, right? You're a great team for a long time. We saw it with the Bills in their Kelly years, right? And, the Bills got to a certain point where it's like, you got to start wondering, they're not getting – they're good in the regular season, but they're not getting those results in the playoffs. You wonder if Tampa's hit that point of maybe they're going to start making some changes. Florida is a bowl. Let's be honest. I did pick Tampa to win it all. I knew that series was going to be the pain point, and it turned out to be the pain point. So my bracket is in shambles, Matt. Yours is still in great shape. But I'm concerned.
I think everything – I think everything on my bracket minus I don't think I hit a single series, as far as how many games that they go, but I got the teams right. So I'll take that. I'll take that victory. Right?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you need to win money, go with Matt Diegert, please. Just go against me on it right now.
Well,
he's on a roll.
Speaking of that though, let's speaking of making money, let's pat ourselves on the back a little bit for last week's little parlay that we threw out there at plus 215. And if you would have won $100, if you would have bet $100, it would have won you $215.
That's right.
Colorado and the Golden Knights won their respective games, and you would have won money. So
that's right. And hey, as we go through these games, man, maybe we'll give a special. You want to try a 2-team Game 7 parlay this weekend? We'll get into that shortly, but we can try that out there and see if we can give our listeners some more tips on to win some cash over the weekend.
Some more cash in the pocket. That'd be great. But let's touch on this real quickly before we go into the Western Conference. Sure. As far as playoffs go, I would somewhat agree with that. it's not that he's lost trades. It's not that he's it's just he hasn't come through and made the big one. At least in my estimation, he hasn't gotten the big one done. Like, and when I say that, it's the Pettersson deal. It's the I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but we know that there's multiple things that he's had on the table that he is not able to, not had a chance to, not gotten pushed through, basically. Whether it be on the player, whether it be on Kevin Adams, but because it's not done, it becomes a failure, right? So. Yes, he's done well. Josh Norris, Dylan Cousins, great hockey trade. Savoy for McLeod, great hockey trade. Middlestat for Byram, jury's still out, but seems like it's going to be a good hockey trade. Seeing with how Middlestat is kind of doing and already on his third team in 2 years. So I mean, what do you feel about that?
I'll tell you, I got to take a little crow. I didn't like the Middlestat trade when it first came out because I don't like giving up centers. But Byram's been pretty good. I still think the Sabres have a little redundancy. I think they have a little bit redundancy in their defensive core. I think one power Byram in an ideal world would be traded to help some of the other defensive core to kind of balance it all out, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a wild comparison on GMs in the world of Buffalo. Is Kevin Adams the Doug Whaley of the Buffalo Sabres? Now, you remember Doug Whaley was actually not a bad GM. He made some good trades. Remember he made a couple good trades. He got
LeSean for McCoy, or LeSean for McCoy. Okay.
Yeah.
He got LeSean for Kiko Alonso, or vice versa.
Kiko
Alonso for LeSean
Jerry Hughes. Remember he got Jerry Hughes, and he made some good moves. But what was his ultimate failure? He didn't draft the right quarterback, right? But if you look at some of the other moves, you're like, you know what? We had a couple 9-7 years. We weren't that bad, right? Kevin Adams is a little bit of the same. We've gotten a little bit closer to playoffs. We've been better than we were, but he hasn't made that, like you said, the big splash that we need, the big play to get us over the top. Whether and that's and it doesn't mean he's a totally incompetent GM. It's just that, again, if we made the playoffs 7 out of 8 years and then we hired Kevin Adams, I think we have a little bit more patience right now in what's going on, right? We would be like, okay, we get it. So, who did the pick? Oh, this is interesting. So who did the pick turn out in the Eichel trade? That was a second rounder, right? Let's take a look. I can't remember.
Yeah, and while you're looking that up, I mean, it kind of feels like to me with Kevin Adams, it all, and not necessarily just Kevin Adams, but it kind of, I feel like we're at, if there are any, Bills fans out there, I feel like we're at the point where Kevin Adams needs to make that Stephon Diggs type trade, to kind of get the Sabres up over the hump, because yes, the Bills made the playoffs in 2019, but they went into Houston and lost that game. Conspiracies aside, with the the men in black in the end zone there, conspiracies aside there, but the next year Brandon Beane goes out and trades for Stephon Diggs, gets Josh Allen, that number 1 receiver. I feel as though they need to make that big splash move here for the Sabres, whether that's a trade, whether that's going to get being involved in and getting Mitch Marner if he makes it to free agency. I really feel like it comes down, and the Sabres need that, over the hump type splash type deal. Whether, like I said, whether it be free agency or trade, but that's something that Kevin Adams needs to take advantage of and needs to do. Was it Kulich who was the Eichel?
Yes, that was the 2022 first round pick. Okay, good call. So it's so far we got Tuck, Kulich, and Peyton Krebs. Now we also did get we received a second round pick in 2023, I believe, as well. And so I'm just looking that up as well. But that may, I doubt we've gotten a return on that one. But I'm just curious on who we picked. I wonder if we may have flipped that pick for all we know. But think about it. if Yuri Kulik really turns out to be what we think he can be, right, a very good center in the NHL, or if we use Kulik to get that big player, right, which I'm still not afraid to do, if that's a pretty Sabres. It could have been a disaster, right? We all know with the whole saga of Eichel and the neck and all that stuff, it could have really been a complete nightmare. But
right,
all in all, it didn't turn out that badly. I'm still trying to see who the Sabres got with that pick.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I mean,
maybe Maxim Sturback, but I'm not even sure if that was the Knights' second-round pick. But it looks like there may have been a trade somewhere, but I got to still research that.
Yeah. So but the main pieces are Kulik, Krebs, and Alex Tuch. So I mean, you got those three pieces for Jack Eichel. Yuri Kulik seems like he's and Steve's right. It definitely turned out better than the O'Reilly trade. I will say that.
Yeah. In terms of just after Tage Thompson, it was a disaster, right? The rest of but that part of it was good.
And that kind of goes to show you, like, that Kevin Adams really has not failed, quote unquote, failed on trades and things like that. But where he's failed is making that big splash move and bringing in, that big splash player that wants to be here, that's going to help take this team over the top. And I think that's more what my point is I don't consider him a failure yet until he's actually fired. So we'll definitely see what happens with the Sabres coming out of this meeting. We've heard from the different sources, like Elliot Friedman, things like that.
Wait a minute. I wonder if the first round pick, because we did get a first round pick in 2022 for Reinhart, was that the Yuri Kulich pick?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up.
I'm still trying to. This is what happens when you make a lot of trades like this.
Yeah.
So it might have been. So I'm not 100% sure if it kicked in the 2023, because I know that there was a protection on it, but we'll have to verify that for sure. I've got to get all that together. So because we got Levi at a first in that trade for Reinhardt.
Yep, and Levi, we'll get to the Amerks here in a little bit as well, but he's having a hell of a playoffs with two shutouts and the sweep there that they had. So I mean, we'll get to that in a minute. But moving back to the Western Conference and the NHL playoffs, we still have two series going on with Winnipeg, St. Louis. St. Louis ended up destroying Winnipeg last night. Connor Hellebuck still looking like a complete failure in the playoffs.
Is there a player right now in the NHL that has more pressure on him this weekend right now than Connor Hellebuck? I mean, I'm a big fan of Connor Hellebuck, but he's been so great. But in the playoffs the last couple of years, he's been very spotty. Let's be honest. He has not been the Connor Hellebuck that we thought he would be. And St. Louis has surprised us all. I mean, they have a good roster, but I did not expect them to push Winnipeg this hard. But that's going to be it's great theater.
I expected it to go 6 games. I didn't expect it to go the full 7. It just that's kind of what it comes down to. Is now we're in the 7th game, and it's going to have to be. Let's see here. So the Colorado Avalanche game is tonight, 8:10.
And I got to tell everyone, if you want to watch great hockey, watch Avalanche.
That is the best series.
It's phenomenal. Like, that's going to be great theater. I wonder if Robertson plays tonight. I wonder if, because this is Game 7. Do you think that? I'm curious. How sometimes guys hold out for a bit, but then once you get to a Game 7, maybe they say, let's put on, because there is no tomorrow if they lose, right? So you wonder if he puts himself in the lineup tonight, or if they make that change. So I'll be interested to see that.
Speaking of the Stars, and I hate going back to it, but I do. We are a Buffalo Sabres show, so let's go back to it. It kind of reminds me of the '99 Cup playoffs with Mike Modano when he broke his arm in the Stanley Cup Finals. In what was it, Game 3 or whatever, and sits out for one game with a broken arm and then comes back and helps Dallas to win that series, even though he couldn't really shoot the puck or anything, but he could pass the puck. And, he couldn't really do any of the Mike Modano things. But I think if Robertson comes back, I think Dallas ends up winning that series, except for, myself kind of wanting Colorado to win just because of my bracket. But I really do think that Dallas wins that series if Robertson comes back, just because, it'll give them, just like kind of like I was talking about with Mike Modano, is it kind of gives your team a boost, kind of like it did with Landeskog when he came back in the lineup. It gives your team that little bit of a kick in the ass and a boost at this time of the playoffs, and I know he's listed day to day, but it would definitely be something to see him come back. So
by the way,
definitely that's
you got me on a little hockey reference rabbit hole mentioning the 99 Stars. Do you know what former general manager of the Buffalo Sabres was on the 99 Dallas Stars roster? And it just makes me cringe just thinking about this guy.
Let me think. Former Buffalo Sabres general
manager. Yep.
Jason Botterill.
Yes. He was on the if it wasn't enough what he did to the franchise, he was on the 99 Stars. You know what? I mean, that just, yeah. Because I was looking at their roster, they were good. That team was loaded. And so was Derek Plant. I forgot that Derek Plant was on that team. Dude scored the great, game winner for us in '97.
Yep.
But
yeah. No, that like I just saw that the other day. I don't remember who's putting it out, but the Sabres highlights from every single day. And seeing those come out, it's a lot of fun seeing those. But real quickly, are we taking both favorites in that series, or how are we doing this?
You know what? I don't know. It's tough. I mean, usually the game 7, and I do this in basketball a lot, I would usually ride with the best player, right? And in the Avalanche's case, Stars case, the best player is the two best players in the series are on Colorado's side, right? You have McCarr and you have McKinnon. Those are two guys that could carry them in this kind of situation, right? They just give it everything they got. But do I trust? What's weird is the goalies both have a little bit of trust issues for me, right? Oettinger's good at times. Sometimes he's a little spotty. Same with Mackenzie Blackwood, right? They've both been very good at times, but I think I might ride with Colorado tonight, Matt. And I did pick Dallas originally. It's like a 51-49 thing for me. It's a very tough call tonight. If anything, though, I don't know what the over-under is. I would say maybe take the under. I'm feeling maybe a tight game tonight, but that's one thought. And Jets Blues, I'm gonna say Jets, but I'm not 100% confident right now, just because of the way Hellebuck's playing.
So I think again we're going with a favorites bet here. I really do. I think Colorado's just got too much for Dallas in a game 7. I think that Winnipeg, I think Hellebuck got embarrassed, and I think that he's going to come back out and have the game of his life on Sunday night. So we're going to take both of it at plus 170. $100 bet wins you $170, and definitely place that on the Due Champions official sports book, being FanDuel. So definitely go check them out, and if you don't already, put it, create that and create your account and go through that, because they got some great things going on for the Derby as well today too. So
absolutely.
With that being said,
the Kentucky Derby is one of the best 3 minutes in sports. I love the anticipation. I love the call. The guy that calls the race, it's incredible.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's truly one of the biggest spectacles in sports there is, and it's it's kind of fun to watch for the minute or whatever it is that it goes off.
But that's it. Yeah.
But it's definitely a good thing to see every year. With that, go ahead.
No, it's just as saying about the West. Very disappointed in the LA Kings right now. You know, they had a 2-0 lead. But credit to Edmonton. I wonder if if the beast of Edmonton has been awoke a little bit here. You know, they were down 2-0. LA had a chance to knock them out, and they blew it multiple occasions for me. And you know what's weird is there are two teams here we're going to get to, and they're kind of in similar spots. The Kings and the Minnesota Wild, again, knocked out in the first round. You know, to the Knights, another team that had a shot, that had a legit shot to knock out the Knights and the Oilers, and yet it did not happen. You know, by the way, just about the Wild, Matt, you'll like this stat. First team in professional sports history, North American, that lost in 10-year span, lost 8 times in the first round. Jeez. So I went again. I looked up research because I remember some things as a kid. There was a team that did it 7 times in 10 years. You guessed it, Matt. It is our Buffalo Sabres. It's 7 times in 10 years when Boston and Montreal were great back in the day with Wah and Bork. The Sabres had good teams back then, actually. They were very good, but they just couldn't get past Boston. You know, the old format was the Sabres were third, they play Montreal or Boston, and they just take turns beating the Sabres. So, but yeah, so Minnesota stands alone. That's pretty frustrating. I mean, it's great to make the playoffs, but man, they just cannot break through.
Do me a favor. Do me a favor. Say that stat one more time because I'm just trying to. I'm trying to figure that out in my brain as far as playoffs go.
If you take a 10-year span, Minnesota has made the playoffs 8 times, and they lost every single time in the first round. That's never happened before. Like the most, there were some teams with 7. Sabres were one of those teams that did it in a 10-year span 7 times, but they never got out of the first round. Yeah, they got out of the first round.
What was it? 72.
Oh, for
for the Sabres, 7 years. So because Mayday happened.
Mayday was 93, but from like 82 to 92, they made the playoffs 7 times, and they lost every single time. Which
got it.
Yeah, that's why Mayday for me will always be extra special because that was the first time that. Oh, and we got some research. Steve, you are the man. And listen, the Eichel pick turned out to be Noah Ostlund. Oh, that's right, because I think the Knights had an opportunity, Steve, if I remember correctly, to keep the pick. And I think they may have, and then we got Noah Ostlund the year after that.
Something like that, yeah.
Good call, Steve. Yes, because I think the Knights missed the playoffs that year or something like that. So I think they had a chance. I forget something like that where they were able to keep it. But excellent call. So listen, that's still, I mean, Noah Ostlund, I still have high hopes for him. So that trade could turn out to be very, very good for both teams at some point. So
yeah. So as far as the rest of that, yeah, I mean, you know, we got to see that was, I mean, even though it was 4-2, we definitely got to see a great series for Edmonton and LA. It was very close series, very close played. You know, watching you know, game 5 when Edmonton, or I'm sorry, game 4 when Edmonton tied the series in overtime, like Bouchard scoring with 30-something seconds left, and then you know, Draisaitl scoring in the playoffs, or I mean in the overtime. That was one of the better games I've seen. You know, from this year. It's unfortunate the Kings kind of fell by the wayside because they did have a chance to, you know, had they played defense for another 30 seconds. Could have been up 3-1 in that series, and we might be talking about, you know, either in a game 7 now also, or that might be that series might be over. You know,
definitely. So we got
glad to see it for Jeff Skinner. Glad to see it for Jeff Skinner. Glad to see it for Evander Kane. You know, so
yeah. I mean, listen, the Jeff Skinner thing is what it is. It's not. I'm not like, oh, I can't believe he's getting in the playoffs. I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me in terms of, you know, like when Eichel dominated or Reinhart dominated, that was a different feeling altogether. So, but we're gonna have some great. We'll see how the second round is not set in the West yet because it depends on St. Louis and Winnipeg and how that all goes. But we got Panthers Maple Leafs. That's going to be a great series in the second round. I mean, you want to talk about right there.
Oh, yeah.
And then Hurricanes Capitals. I mean, not to be outdone. That's that's a rivalry in itself. Has been for a long time. So, who do you got, Matt?
I feel like that one's going to be a very low scoring series.
Yeah.
Washington, Carolina. I think that Carolina is going to play that Rod Brindamore style defense. That style that they've been playing for a long time now, and it's not the hated neutral zone trap, but it's something similar, man. I don't know what they're doing there, but they just play very good, solid defense down there,
especially at home. Especially at home. Well, I think because they have the last change, and it gives them a chance to get the great Jacob Slavin on as an example on some of those. But I tell you, if there's one defenseman I could pick right now to put on the Sabres right now, you think I'm crazy. I know people say McCarr and stuff like that. I'll take Jacob Slavin. We have Dali. You put Jacob Slavin on this team, I'm telling you right now, that entire unit takes off. That's the kind of now I know it's hard to get a Jacob Slavin, but those are the type of defensemen I hope we develop and maybe produce at some point, even if it's on a lesser scale, a poor man's Jacob Slavin, right? In those terms would be great. So just to kind of tie that into the Buffalo Sabres, but I there's part of me that wonders about the Leafs this year if they're going to be magical, but I just can't. Florida is such a bull to play against, Matt. I just don't know if anybody's going to beat them. We could be looking at a possible dynasty in the making here with Florida. I mean, I never thought I'd say those two words in my life about the Florida Panthers, but here we are, right? I mean, they made the Cup final 2 years ago. They won it last year, and here they are. I mean, they quickly disposed of Tampa Bay, who was an excellent hockey team. I mean, I'm still stunned that they beat them in 5, but beat as it may, I got to go with Florida. And what I see, could Toronto win it? Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe psychologically they could get over that. They finally got over that first round hurdle. Maybe, but you don't believe in that?
No.
No.
No,
I'll say this though. I'll say this: if they get past this round, I think for Toronto headspace, I think that's huge because Florida's been a thorn in their side. Their division, you know what I mean? If they get to the conference finals, right? I think Toronto, if you look at some of the teams left, I think Toronto could beat any of them. I think this is their hardest series right now. This reminds me of the Bills-Chiefs a couple of years ago, Matt. We played them in the second round, right? If we got past them that year, we lost to them at home, Buffalo's winning the Super Bowl, right? I feel like if Toronto gets past this series, they're winning the Stanley Cup. I'm telling you right now. I feel it. And I know some of our fans are going to hate that because Toronto, is Toronto, but I think this may be their biggest hurdle.
Well, so a couple things for you. So the last time that Toronto played Florida in the playoffs was 2023. Florida beat them in the second round of the playoffs in 2023. And Florida went on to the Stanley Cup to go against the Vegas Golden Knights. So we've had Florida make the Stanley Cup Finals now. If they go again this year, it'll be 3 years in a row. They're 1-1 in the Stanley Cup. They won it last year. So with that being said, Toronto did not get out of the first round last year. But we got two series that are that are going to be, I think, very, very good in a non-defensive style hockey. So, and that's the Florida Toronto series. And then also I think the Edmonton Vegas series, Jack Eichel is actually up on Connor McDavid 1-0 in the playoffs. The last time that they played was in 2023 as well. So I'm excited to see that series. I think that one's going to be a very, very good series as well. As long as Stuart Skinner can continue to play good goalie, have good goaltending. So I think that's going to be a very high flying series. And I'm very excited to see that. So,
and Matt, just to take it a step further, do you know this entire decade we've had Florida team in the final? Tampa won 2 in a row. Then they lost in the third. So Florida could try to duplicate a little bit of what Tampa did in a weird way. Is that crazy? I mean, that speaks to what I've been going on about this decade. And I still think it may be a little early to say it's a definite advantage every year, but these teams that have these tax breaks, right? The Floridas, the Nevadas, what Kevin Adams, and that's the thing. It's not what Kevin Adams said that was wrong. It's the
how
way
he said it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's how he said it. And, the taxes are a legit thing that now, does it guarantee you're going to be a winner? No. Florida still does. They make good signings. They make good trades. Dallas has developed tremendously. So is Tampa, right? There's things that they do. It's not just, okay, we got great taxes, we're going to have a great team. I mean, Nashville was a disaster this year. They have great taxes, so it's not always just that. So, but it does certainly. I think almost half the teams in the Final Four this decade have been from very tax-friendly markets, and that's you're starting to see the trend, right? Let's see a few more years, but it's really, it's something that. I'm not sure if the NHL needs to address it, Matt, but it's something to kind of, when you got teams like Toronto and the Rangers that make tremendous, revenue for the league, right? It's weird that I didn't have this on my bingo card, but I'm sticking up for Toronto and the Rangers. Like it's not, usually they outspend people and bully people, but it's almost like, wait, we're making all this money, we're charging all this money for our fans, but yet we can't put the money back into our team. Like Florida can. Weird, right? But maybe you just got to match it based on tax. And
it kind of comes down to like what they've been able to do through the draft and retaining their own players, because they don't have a lot of those guys that are just like that are non-homegrown Toronto. Drafted guys. Like, they have Tavares, but they drafted Nylander, they drafted Matthews, they drafted Marner, they drafted, a lot of those guys. And, I don't have, so it kind of comes down to it where, I really do think that, that has a lot to do with it too, is, we know Kevin Adams is has the right, he has the right plan at the end to his plan.
Yeah.
And how to get there. His execution has not been the greatest. And that's I think where, and I think it's exacerbated because of the 14th year of a playoff drought. So, and then on top of that, inside there, O'Reilly, Eichel, Reinhart have all won Stanley Cups. Dylan Cousins made the playoffs this year. Jeff Skinner made the playoffs this year. So it just kind of like it's almost like, okay, and the nice thing that we did hear from the press conference, kind of starting to get into that now and touching on the press conference and what we feel as though happened from the meeting and things that came out about the meeting, and we feel about those. But one of the things that Kevin Adams said during the he was asked about spending to the cap. And he said that they may have to, because of, a lot of these other contracts that are now up, as far as, RFA contracts, those are going to, end up bringing that up. So they may now have to spend up to the cap to, be competitive. So, we'll definitely see what happens with that. So we'll see if there's anything else brought in. I really, I want to hear that the Sabres are involved in Mitch Marner if he makes free agency. If they don't get him, fine. Like I said last week, I don't care if they don't. Like, I get it. Who wants to come play for the Buffalo Sabres, when you're in Toronto and you're, consistently in the playoffs, or you can go to Vegas or Florida or, anywhere else and get those tax breaks like we were talking about.
Yep. By the way, did you see what Ottawa fans were chanting in Game 6?
No.
They were chanting Marner's leaving. Marner's leaving. Oh, that was good. I got to give a shout out to Ottawa fans for that one. That was pretty great.
That would be awesome to see him in a Sabres uniform. I really think that they have to be involved. I think that Kevin Adams at this point has to be involved. Obviously, I get it if you're talking upwards of, the 12, 13, 14 million dollars for him. Obviously, that might be a little bit too much to spend on Mitch Marner, but I think that they at least need to be involved in one of those teams that's, in last in the running. And if he doesn't choose them, fine. That's something. But I need to see that Kevin Adams is legitimately trying to make this team better with top end talent, not the, and we all know how Jason Zucker did this year, but I don't want to see an overpay for a Jason Zucker type deal this year where, it's 1 year, $5 million. Okay, great. He's going to play on the third or fourth line, and whatnot. You need to help the top end of the team now, and you need to help Tage Thompson. You need to help. You need to help Alex Tuck. You need to help the goaltending. You need to figure this out at this point, and you have 1 year to do it. You have one summer to do it. Now, as far as everything coming out, speaking of, and that's it. That's if Kevin Adams stays in the general manager role, right? With what we've heard from, and what everybody's heard from Elliot Friedman, and, it sounds like that Kevin Adams may be moving up. It may be becoming the team president.
Okay.
We don't know that. We can't confirm that until Terry Pegula and Kevin Adams actually come out and say that. But that's kind of what the feeling I get from what Elliot Friedman said. I feel like there's going to be a lot of changes there. I feel like Kevin Adams may move up into a president of hockey ops role. I think that they may bring in a GM. And I think that Kevin Adams is, like we've talked about, is better suited for the president of hockey ops than he is for general manager. Whether that be Kramanos, whether that be a Ken Holland, whether that be Scotty Bowman, whether that be whoever. But if Kevin Adams does move up, it kind of gets him, his plan goes into place, but it lets another voice in the room kind of execute the plan rather than Kevin Adams, being out in front of that. But I fully expect Lindy Ruff to still be where he is as a coach. I expect there to be changes within the assistants. You can't leave the assistants where they are, and how that they've done, and expect the fans to be okay without some sort of change behind the bench. Power play was horrible. Penalty kill was horrible. Goaltending was horrible. So it comes down to it. Is that a coaching thing, or is that on the players? Easiest way to figure that out, change the coaches, let Lindy Ruff get his own staff in here and move forward with that.
Yeah. I've just never heard a coach come in and say, okay, I'm sorry, you can't pick your assistants. I mean, that to me was a setup for failure. I mean, was Lindy perfect this year? No, but I still think I think the solution is within the room. I still feel Lindy could be a part of getting to the Sabres to where we need to be. I love that you said Ken Holland, because to me, Ken Holland's turned around multiple organizations. It's not just one. It's not, some guys are just good. Like Carmichael was good at Pittsburgh, right? But Pittsburgh, he wasn't the GM in Pittsburgh, and they had Crosby and Malkin in their prime, right? I'm not saying his job was easy. It's just, how much did he really do, right? It's the same thing with Botterill when he came here. But at least with Holland, I feel like he's got, Edmonton was a little messy when he got there, and he got them on the right path, right? He made some good changes there. Of course, they have Draisaitl and McDavid, but he still made those other secondary moves and got them in place. So I would love to see. I think he brings instant credibility to the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
If you hire a guy like Ken Holland to be the face. And again, even if Adams was the GM, I mean, bringing in, just give him some support. Like, I just want someone in there to say, you know what, Kevin, I think we should do this. I think I'm going to come in as an outsider, and Kevin's in love with his picks. And this happens even with every GM. Every GM loves their picks, right? Sometimes it's hard just to say, I want to trade this guy, right? But let him come in, just look at things very objectively and say, hey, you have a lot of great things going on here, Kev, but why don't we do X, Y, Z, or why don't we look into this? And then you put it all together, and you pull the trigger and trade, you're like, wow, right? The Sabres they're farther away than we think they are, but they're also closer than we think they are too. That's how I feel.
This team is very close. I mean, you fix one or two things on this team. You know, like we talked about. I think that this roster with you know, maybe finding Power's partner, leaving Byram with Dahlin on you know, at least 75% of occasions. I think that you get that third line figured out, third offensive or defensive line pairing figured out. I think you got to move off of Samuelsson and Clifton. I think those two are done. I think that I think you can bring up a Brandstrom and you know, I think you can use JBD as a third pairing defense. So Brandstrom and JBD. I'm perfectly fine with a pairing like that if that's something that would work. But I think you fix the defense, and I think you fix the goaltending. And like we talked about a couple weeks ago, the easiest way to fix that is with goaltending coach change to see what they can do to get the best out of UPL. I'm still of the mind. I don't think he can be trusted. I don't think you can trust him to be put in the net next year. I think you have to move on and at least bring in one goaltender to push him forward. So
I'm about 70% with you on that. There's still part of me that still wants to see a little, like Lindy talks about, defensive, you know, awareness, you know, being in the right places and things like that. I still think that's still our biggest problem on this team. Because, you know, and I think we need to fix that for Levi if he comes up. Like, if we fix those things, if we fix our defense, thank you, Robbie. I really appreciate you. What was I going to say? If you fix that, it could also help when Levi comes up with the Sabres to help him. And I like what Steve said here, by the way, about our two Russian defensive prospects. And those may be the kind of guys, Steve, that we need to put into this team. And so, Matt, I want to hire you as general manager of the Buffalo Sabres today, okay? Welcome aboard, okay? I'm going to give you your first decision, okay? Let's say you went around the league, okay, and you couldn't trade Matthias Samuelsson, okay? But I'm going to present to you the buyout option. I'm going to give you the savings, okay? So if you buy out Matthias Samuelsson today, the annual buyout cost is $714,286 for 10 seasons. Sounds daunting, but that's almost less than the average player comes up and makes. You save $3.5 million against the cap for the next 5 years, and then you lose $714,000 against the cap over the following 5 years. You're only, you're saving 3.5. I really think this is a no-brainer for the Sabres. If you ask me, I would buy him out. I don't think.
I think I would buy him out as well at this point. I think there's a lot of good reasons to buy him out. Now we also know that Kevin Adams was talking about Matthias Samuelsson as playing better last season, and we saw him get back a few games here and there. So it really comes down to I really think the biggest and easiest thing to do right now is to let Lindy Ruff get his own staff in here. I keep harping on that, and I'm not saying don't change the roster, because the roster needs some changes to it. They need a better goaltender. They need some help on defense. They need a top line scorer. But I think, I literally think if I'm sitting here right now, and you bring in Mitch Marner, if you bring in that pair or that partner for Owen Power, whether that be if Brent Burns makes free agency, if he's able to come in and play 1 more year, 2 more years at 40, 42 years old, 40, 41, 42 years old, if or maybe go out and get an Ekblad or anything like that to kind of pair those two. And then, I mean, could you imagine the top 4 defense being Byram Dahlin and Power Ekblad? I mean, that would be pretty good defensive system as well. And then you get rid of Clifton and Matthias Samuelsson and bring in Brandstrom, or re-sign Brandstrom and bring up or keep JBD up here as your third line pairing. I mean, I think that semi fixes the defense right there. You'd have to see it on, at least on paper, it sounds good. And then you bring in either a new goaltender coach or get rid of UPL. Pick one. I don't care. But I think that you now if you put you sign a Mitch Marner and you put him on your top line, which you have now 200-point guys or potential 100-point guys on your top line centered by Norris. I mean, and then you have Alex Tuch, Yuri Kulik, and like a Jack Quinn on the next line. And then, it just everything kind of starts to slot better. And I think that type of stuff gets the Sabres over the hump. But, we won't know until July. So, or at least until the draft. So,
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, this is it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Ranger fan. We were going over to Sabres, RFAs, and he even said, "Wow, I didn't realize how many RFAs you guys have. Like the Sabres have quite a few decisions to make. I mean, we have cap space, but we all know that cap space can evaporate quickly, and we have to decide, Matt. We have some guys that have long-term deals, right? We have like JJ Peterka. I like him. Now, Sabermetrics, I thought, had a great tweet this week about bridging him, and I think we should bridge Peterka. I know these GMs now want to get these guys in eight-year deals, right, and lock them up, but do you want to have 6-7 players, considering where we are right now, Matt, locked up for so long, right? That's like I'm okay with taking a risk on Peterka for the next 3 or 4 years at a lower cap number, so we have a little more flexibility, right? And if Peterka pops, then we'll deal with it in 3 years. If we're a much better team by then, maybe we could sign him early, right? We could do what Brandon Beane does in Buffalo, right? He negotiates with his players, and if you have a good GM, you could get guys signed. You could still do it. I know certain markets like Buffalo always have that little fear, in the back of their mind, Matt. Like we did with Eichel, that all these guys are going to leave, and with Reinhart, they're going to want to leave, right? We have a little sports PTSD in that case, right? We do, and I don't want this organization to act out of fear. I want them to act from strength at this point, right? I want them to say, hey, let's give out a couple of bridges, even with Byram. I mean, do we want to have 3 defensemen locked up for 8 years? That's quite a long time.
And I don't think Byram. I don't think Byram's going to get that long-term deal. I think he's going to be. I think maximum you sign him to 4. And if in 2 years he's one of the best defensemen because he's with Dahlin, and he's still playing well with Dahlin and everything, maybe before the year before his contract is up, going into that last year of that contract, then you re-sign him. So I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but Peterka specifically, I think you sign him no less than 5 years. I think that I get the whole bridge deal thing, but I think that you have to minimum sign him for 5 years. And like we talked about before, I think it's going to come down to, for him, it's going to come down to lower deal or shorter deal, more money, longer deal, less money. So, I mean, it just really, really comes down to it. I think that he's done enough to prove that he's going to be a future 30 to 40 goal scorer. You get him on a line with Tage Thompson and a guy like Mitch Marner. Like that's gonna be absolutely like one of the better top lines in the NHL. I think his shot is one of the best I've ever seen. And he snipes it from all over the ice. Sometimes I get a little bit crazy with him on a breakaway. It's like at least make one move rather than just shoot the puck, but I get it. You're doing that. So we've come to the portion of our show, our favorite portion of the show, which will unfortunately end on Monday.
I know. I'm feeling separation anxiety already, Matt.
So let's run it a few times and see if we can't get the Sabres in the number 1 spot. So let's see what we can do here.
Yep.
All right, so Tankathon is now pulled up. The draft lottery is in 2 days, 7 hours, 46 minutes, and 46 seconds. So we're going to sim the lottery here. Buffalo stays at 7.
Okay, I'll take it.
Buffalo stays at 7.
Yeah, Boston at 2. I don't want to see that.
Buffalo moved down 1 spot.
Well, maybe this is a good omen that we're not winning this. Maybe we'll actually win this lottery. I just really want the Sabres to get. Well, I'm so mixed on this, Matt, because
hey, we got the second overall pick. Yay!
Let's
go. We're gonna end it on that one for the Tankathon, only because just kind of like we've talked about multiple times, is we want to see the Sabres be in that second spot, because I don't trust Kevin Adams not to take that top defenseman out there. For whatever reason, he has a love for defensemen. And I mean, it never hurt to have all number one defensemen on your team, apparently. But in all seriousness, I think that they're better slotted in the second spot overall. You can take a guy like a Haggins. You can take a guy like Porter Martone. You can take a guy like Michael Misa. And those guys are all prepared. And I think if the Sabres, obviously you saw how many times it took us. We ran that 7 times, and it took us all 7 times to get 1 time in there. And then every single other time we've done this show, the Sabres have not been higher than 7. So, I mean, we've done that since the end of the season, and even a little bit into the season, we were running it a little bit too. I think ever since the trade deadline. So, and that's 3 times a show, and we've done it that many times. So 1 time we've gotten the Sabres to get anything higher than 7. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm of the mind right now. I think that you have enough on your team. There's no reason to, not trade that pick. I think that you trade 7 overall if that's where you are. I think you have to trade that, package that with something to go get, a higher end player. Because if you literally are sitting down and you guys decide not to be a part of Mitch Marner and have nothing to do with Mitch Marner, between Kevin Adams and Kermanos and Lindy Ruff, if they sit down and decide, hey, we're not going to spend that amount of money that's going to take to bring him in here, which I will not be happy with. I get it. But if that's what they ultimately decide, then go out and trade the number 1 pick, or the 7th overall pick, and go get somebody, package that with something, and go get something that's going to help the the top level of this team. So
absolutely. And just for that NHL lottery, just to let everyone know, it's now being placed. It's going to take place live in studio for the first time Monday night. No more drawing the cards in a still room, as Frank Savelli tweeted, and cards were flipped on air. It's not going to be like that anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. And then,
so what are they going to do? Pull balls on the
stage? I guess doing like the pick 6. I guess they're gonna have today's numbers are. I'm not sure exactly how they're gonna do that, so I'll be interested to see. I unfortunately won't see it myself. I have a business thing that night, so I'll just be watching on my phone, sneaking peeks at see if we got the pick. But we'll see how that all transpires. And then everybody out there, we're going to get more deep into the lottery, into the prospects, once we exactly where the Sabres are picking and who could potentially be where we're picking. So that's why we're kind of waiting on that so we get a little more focus, so we have plenty of time leading up to late June in Los Angeles for the NHL draft. So we'll see if do we have a new general manager? Do the Sabres have
and something's got to come out real quick. Something's got to start coming out real quickly here to kind of hopefully we see some news this weekend before the lottery happens. But with that being said, Brian, I know that we are running over time here today, so I definitely want to thank you for joining me. I definitely want to thank all of our sponsors, and
it's good to be seen, Matt. Let's go Sabres.
What are we going to do?
Let's go lottery balls.